Hello, everyone. We have come to the end of this complex and challenging conference, especially in these coronavirus times. It was very difficult to organize. I would like to thank the teams who have organized this conference and who have executed it here at the IDC, at the IPS, the production, which was exceptional. And of course, I'd like to thank all of the participants. I'd like to thank you all heartily. Before I conclude, I would like to answer some questions that we have been asked by the audience. I will focus on 4 questions very briefly, and then I will conclude. The first question was, is there any compatibility between the threats and the solutions? But the question is, how do you manage the resources? And I am very concerned by the way the coronavirus crisis has been managed in terms of resources, because the coronavirus, is an invisible enemy, but it has created a crisis in many areas, in many dimensions, and that needs to be learned from. That's what I'm concerned about. And we saw it in all areas: strategic, political, security, economic, and so on. As for the plan, Israel is a Jewish and democratic state. The annexation plan, which is one of the outcomes of the 100 plan, was a hostility. It was a problem between us and the Palestinians. It would have projected immediately on the Hashemite kingdom of Jordan, which gives us depth, strategic depth, and it would have weakened our ability to cope with the Iranians. But first and foremost, there is a trend among the Palestinians. Maybe we should be annexed to Israel. Maybe tomorrow the Hezbollah will do something that will lead to us having a lot of Palestinians annexed to us, with or without rights. So this will be a huge threat on our national security. The 100 plan is this century, the plan of the century, the deal of the century, does not have any ability to happen. It cannot be like Swiss cheese full of holes. No one can agree to it. The annexation, we have to thank God, perhaps, that this plan was shelved. I see the annexation plan as a threat to the existence of Israel and also the demographic principles we were asked about. There was also a question: what is the next political crisis and what is the edge of the politicians over those who delve in security? Well, the next political strategic crisis is always embedded within the Iranian issue and how we conduct ourselves with the Palestinians. If we don't manage these well, we will be in trouble. And finally, do the intelligence organizations engage in the permanent agreement? Well, unfortunately, I don't see a permanent solution being formed in the near future. And now let me conclude by saying that since we are here at the end of the conference, they will be brief. Israel has 2 legs supporting it: the national resilience and national security. National security is still high, but you can see that the IDF does not have a multi-annual plan, and that's of a great concern. We have not been given the U.S. support. And why? There is a failure. And there's also the national resilience. The national resilience is going down, and we saw it as a theme throughout the conference. There is a problem with the way the government is treating the civilians. There is increasing unemployment. There is terrible failing addressing and coping with the coronavirus, COVID-19. And if Iran were to attack us tomorrow, the security system will be organizing itself. There will be a chain of command. All the resources will be pooled in order to fight Iran. So what's the difference between a virus and Iran? There is no difference. It's like a biological war. The civilians are being mistreated. Resources are being wasted. This has come up quite clearly throughout the conference, and we see it in reality, and we will soon be going into an even worse reality. And I don't know how we're going to recover from the crisis once the coronavirus will be defeated, hopefully in a year from now. Without national resilience, which is currently very much undermined, how will we be able to make national security upheld if the civilians are disgruntled, are hating one another, attacking one another, if there is an absence of leadership? I am very, very concerned, and this is a message that is being clearly conveyed by the conference. Therefore, without a national resilience, national security will also have be in trouble. The two of them together are the two legs that Israel stands upon. And right now, when we're just days away from a historical agreement, it is time to make sure that, militarily wise, we will not lose Israel's quality military edge, both in essence and in image. I am not buying these explanations that we're not willing to sell F-35 to the UAE. The UAE is not a problem. The problem is that this cutting-edge technology, this fifth generation of aircraft are being given to one Arab country, they'll be given to another tomorrow. We will have to rely more and more on the reasonable relations with the Arab countries. But can there not be a revolution? Didn't we have a revolution with Turkey, with Iran, both negative? Was there not a revolution in Egypt that was then corrected heroically by President Assisi, who was first appointed as the Minister of Security under the Muslim Brotherhood? All of these things are possible, and that's why we need to maintain our QME, which is based on a gap between us and any other combination of enemies. It was a law in the United States, and we cannot sell it now. I would again like to thank all the teams, all the interviewers and interviewees in this fascinating and complex day of discussions. Thank you all very much. A happy new Jewish year, and goodbye.